Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Miller, and this is Live with Miami's Community News. And our guest today is Lia Yaffer-Pena. Got it right?
You got it perfectly right. Yes.
So
we need more practice.
Yes, and you help people all day long.
Yes.
All right. Tell us about what you do within the confines of the city of Miami Gardens.
Excellent. Wonderful. I'd love to. So I am the director of the Community Fund of North Miami-Dade. And we are an organization that's dedicated to helping small businesses get access to capital. Now, within the city of Miami Gardens, we have a program that we recently launched through the funding of the Formula One. And that program is really focused on helping businesses in Miami Gardens.
So a lot of people don't know how that got funded. So why don't you tell us?
Sure. So Formula One did the race, obviously, in May. Last May, it was a very successful event. But they weren't only about doing the race. They really also wanted to help the community of Miami Gardens. And they've made a commitment over the next 10 years to put in a total of $5 million into the community. This program that's called the On Track program that we work with is actually part of that commitment.
Emerson Fittipaldi was here a few weeks ago. We talked about races and about the first race 25 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So this is the first year Formula One was there in the Miami Gardens area. It was a pretty successful event, all right? In the beginning, a lot of the neighbors didn't want it, but everything got worked out. So now part of their payment for us, the county and the city, to use those roads, you got to get back to the community.
Yes.
So it was $1 million a year for 5 years?
So it's $5 million in total. What they've done with us is this first year is $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
We're matching some of those funds through our own funds and other contributors. And we also have the Truist Foundation coming in from the bank to help also support this program to provide some of the technical assistance to these businesses.
So somebody says, I want to go into business, but I don't have any money. Welcome to the club. All right.
Yes.
And then they can call up the city and find out more about the program.
Yes.
So what might it look like? Somebody says, I want to open up whatever type of business, whether it's in a retail or wholesale area. Can they be operating out of their homes?
Yes, they can. So we work with both startups and businesses that are already existing. Both types of businesses need funding at any given time. What we want are businesses that already have like a proven concept. So you may be a startup, but at the same time, you're working with, you're moving from a home-based business to a brick and mortar, or maybe you're taking it online from your home base. Maybe it was a hobby and now you want it to be a real business.
So they can go in and talk with people like yourself.
Yes.
And people that can help guide them through not just the process, but have a conversation with them to see if their thoughts are viable and whether or not they've been in business and how they're putting stuff together. Are there classes that people can go to?
Yes, there's classes offered by different organizations. I mean, one of the things about Miami, it has really grown in terms of the ecosystem that's available to small business owners. There are some great larger organizations affiliated with the universities, which is the SBDC system supported by the SBA. There are other CDFIs, which all these acronyms, right? And that's what we are, a community development financial institution. There are several of us that work in different types of areas. We specialize in different types of assistance.
So if somebody goes to you and the organization, they can learn about business. You can help teach them. They're going to teach you about their business, all right? And then they're going to ask for some money. And typically, how much money do people ask for?
Well, so I think that's part of the process. How much money do you really need? And so the learning is really in saying, if you look at your business, how many widgets are you going to sell? What are your projections look like? What's it going to take for you to be able to make those things happen, right? Or if you're an existing business, how will it go? Usually they come to us with already a number, but we really need to work through and understand, where does that number come from?
So they're going to get like a private mentor to help them through and to have that conversation, so they can, if it's not formulated, by the time you get done with it, it's going to be formulated and they're going to have some direction or a better direction.
Yes. And so that's why we think that, like, for example, for us, we really concentrate on businesses that are already in that stage, that they understand what they need the money for. And then we can help them and say, okay, let's just kind of prove to making sure that this makes sense.
So one of the things that we're fortunate is that Shark Tank has been on the air now for 10 or 15 years. And so when they ask the entrepreneurs the questions, right, it forces them to answer them. And some are very small businesses that get funding, all right, and help, all right. So in this case, they can get some direction. And then if you tell them, listen, we just couldn't get you what you wanted, are there some other places where you might be able to refer them to?
Many times what we do, even initially, we say, you might not be already at the stage where we can help you, but we will tell them exactly who to go to get that help. So I think that this ecosystem that exists has become a lot more developed. There are people who run the classes for people who are exactly at the startup phase, and there are people who
and you can direct them to those classes.
And we direct them exactly to those people. So we have a list of partners that we work with in the community, and depending on what stage the business is in or what its specific need is, we will send it to them. But we really also, the businesses that we say you are ready to move into a process of accessing capital or applying for a loan more specifically, right? Because Shark Tank is mostly capital equity. We work mostly for loans. And so when they're ready with us, then we will work with them directly. Even if we send them to a partner, we say, go over here, but come right back, because that's part of the steps that we need you to follow to get through this process.
Some 25 years ago, there was some guy from Palmetto High School who was working out of his garage, had some books, he was trying to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a man and a team that changed the world.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have some other guy that's flying a car, a Tesla, around the globe, and up in orbit. And people thought those two people were completely crazy. Right.
Yeah.
And yet there was a place for them, and they helped change the world. So you never know when that's going to happen.
You never know. And I think also, in those two examples, in at some level, you have people who already had a very strong infrastructure within their community, within their families, to help them get those projects off the ground. We work with a lot of the businesses that don't necessarily have access to those resources. So for us, it's really a lot more hands-on. It's a lot more one-on-one work to help find the resources that maybe to other people they would already have free access to.
That's a wonderful service to be able to provide, that some young person, whether they're 18 or 50, that say, hey, this is what we've been doing, I need some help. So they can go to you and speak to a mentor, a senior person that can assist them in formulating ideas and put together a package to see if you or somebody else might lend them some money.
Yes. And in the Formula One program, what we really are doing is working with those businesses. Some of them are startups. A lot of them are already existing. For example, that might say, I'm at the point where I want to change, or there's a generational change in my business. Or we have a case of a beauty shop of somebody who's working in a studio suite but they're going to have their own brick and mortar shop. So those pivot points are what really can create the growth for that business. And when you look at the business, the types of businesses in Miami Gardens, for example, about 80% of them are 1 to 5 employees. And even going from that first employee to a second employee is a huge step.
Yes.
It's a very difficult decision to make, right?
Yeah, that's doubling your workforce.
And it's a big commitment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know at the beginning it's scary. And for those people that are wondering, well, if it was easy, we would have already been doing it. All right.
Yeah.
And so you can help them, you can give them advice, you can comfort them. And as they sit there, you ever have people have a breakdown right in the middle of it and go, I don't know what to do. You're nodding your head, yeah. Right?
Yeah, we've had a lot of tough conversations over the pandemic because it was just very frustrating. Many of the businesses that we work with today were not even able to access some of the relief funding because their businesses were not formalized and structured in a way that they would be able to do that. So we helped them the best way we could. And now we're seeing some of those businesses come back and say, the one thing about these business owners is they're just so resilient and they're so optimistic. And we value that almost as much as anything else they can put on a paper of a projection or a financial statement, because it's the person that's going to make it happen. They believe in themselves.
So a young person could go to you, even if they don't have anything, maybe they just want to have a conversation. I'm thinking about doing that. And then you can help them along their way. Say, here's some things you need to do so that when you come back to us, here's the package.
That's exactly what we do. Right. Yes.
And we know that when you put the pen to the paper or the computer to it, and you start formulating that, it's a lot easier to handle, right?
Yes.
And so the website that people could go to is at cfnmd.org.
Yes, correct.
They
that
can
own
go
it.
online again at CFNMD.
Yes, like
uh,
Community Fund of North Miami-Dade
and
dot
they
org.
go on Google and find that. If they get lost, they could go to the city of Miami Gardens
They can go,
website.
yeah, or they can just go Community Fund. The City of Miami Gardens is also putting out, we're not part of the city. We are collaborating with the city in this program and obviously working with all the council members for that.
So we look at the growth and the improvements that are going on in Miami Gardens. It's crazy, the difference in 15 years, right?
Yes.
Susie McDowell, who's been working with the city with the
Yes, for the Jazz in the Gardens
Jazz in
and
the
all
Gardens.
of the
Sorry,
events that
Susie. All right, so Jazz, which is a big deal
it's a
now,
huge deal.
right? And before, many years ago, so that's for those people over there. Now it's for
It's
everyone.
for everyone.
It just has really changed so much. And I would think we have tennis up there,
Tennis as well.
and the race car. That is a big deal,
Yeah.
right? And to have that's international news.
Yeah.
When they are racing on the streets there, all throughout the world,
Right.
right? People are watching that.
Yeah, and it's really become a destination, and it's a source of pride for the city, for the people who live there, for the residents, for the businesses. And we want to be there to be part of that growth, to continue building that success for the city and the businesses that are there.
And so, is your office within City Hall?
No, our office is actually located in Opa-lawka. So
Okay.
we're an organization that's been around, that's part of a large organization in Opa-lawka CDC, and we've been around for about 20 years, and we've been serving the whole North Miami-Dade area. We now cover all of the Tri-County area, but this program in particular is focused for Miami Gardens.
And we love Miami Gardens.
Yes,
all right?
we do.
The mayor was here about
Oh,
a
Mayor
year ago, I
Harris,
think,
great.
and we were happy to do that. We do want to invite him to come back. So there are a lot of young people that are out there that are wondering about how you wound up and doing this. So tell us about your history, what you've been doing.
Sure. So my professional career was really focused in financial services, more traditional banking, investments, brokerage. And then I met my boss, my mentor really now in this organization. And, we said, this is an organization it has so much opportunities in different ways that I could come and help them. And so this is a really good transition from financial services to community financial services. And I think many people make that transition as they go through their career.
And emotionally, what is that like for you to be able to go from here to where you are?
It's wonderful because it's like you really see the impact. I mean, every time when you talk to the business owners and you see how willing they are to learn, how interested they are in growing and how open they are to that understanding. It is not an adversarial relationship. I don't think banking is always adversarial, but we're always a little bit just kind of careful. The bank is really a more traditional model of financial services. And the good thing now is the banks are collaborating with organizations like ours. They want to be making that impact in the communities by way of working with organizations that have truly boots on the ground and programs that allow them to help the businesses.
And sometimes if you're lucky in life, you can move from one position to helping in a bigger way and a more meaningful way. There's a physician named Dr. Tina Carroll Scott. She's a pediatrician, and when the city, South Miami and Baptist Health, opened up a clinic nearby, our office here just down the street, it was from 0 to 18 years old, no charge.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why would this woman, pediatrician that was worth a big firm, go do that? It took me a couple of years. I figured it out.
You figured it out.
And so she has become part of that core of the community,
Yes.
right? And helping these young people and the families that really need it more than other people might, and help directing them, help trying to keep them on a safe pathway. So certainly I and lots of people appreciate the work you do, and trying to help people at a critical point, because some of those people are going to be massively successful. We just don't know which ones.
Yeah, you don't know which ones, but also the indicators of what we have learned through dealing with these small businesses is one of the biggest indicator is the mindset of the person. How do they feel about this business? How do they feel about the learning process? How do they feel about the bumps in the road? And I think those are really the indicators, because you've hit, I'm sure, a lot in your career moments that you're like, oh, what am I going to do now? how do you face those moments determines a difference between a successful business
Yes.
person and not.
As a professor of mine in Miami-Dade College a long time ago took me into his private classroom because I was having a problem. The classroom is this big. It was me and him. So she goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "I get frustrated. I want to give up." She says, "Why don't you just stop, pause, and start again?"
Yeah.
And so sometimes we hear that lesson,
Yeah.
and that was a long time ago, right? So there are lots of people who have already learned from you and your team to be able to listen. This stuff is going to happen. These are going to be big
It's going to
ones.
happen.
And certainly we've had a thing called COVID, right?
Yes.
That still affects a lot of people. And then inflation. We got all this stuff. But one of the things we realize, though, it's always like that. There's just periods that it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we know it's going to happen.
There's some spaces in between that are great.
Yes.
But yes.
We know the sun gets up, the sun goes down. It's going to be raining one day. And the old saying is, you can't, it's not waiting till the rain stops. It's learning how to dance in the rain.
Man.
So what would be your advice to a young entrepreneur, all right, that's in business, that's struggling? What do you suggest they do?
Well, what I suggest is that they stop, like you say, pause, look for help, look to talk to people who will support you, who will help you see through the clouds that maybe you're focusing on now, because there's something else there that's probably good.
And there's an organization called SCORE at senior or something,
Yes,
retired
we work-
executives, I
yes,
think.
That's
And
correct.
somebody could call up, go to somebody way older than me, all right, that is going to be, that's going to give some advice, all right? And there's organizations like yours, and I'm sure
Yes.
there's other ones that are around. And sometimes entrepreneurs just need a moment to change the vision a little bit,
Yes.
and to be able to go to somebody and say, well, what about this package?
Right. And it doesn't have to be, only the startup. It can be the entrepreneur that's been around for 20 years. We see a lot of businesses in Miami Gardens that have been around for a very long time, and they're just status quo in what they're doing. And then they might say, but you know what? I think that there's something missing to really seeing more benefits. I want to do this one project. How do I make that happen? And you're right. There's a lot of resources. SCORE is a great resource as well.
In the 50s and 60s, McDonald's was advertising for families to go to McDonald's and eat. Now, most of them are drive-through.
Yeah.
Right? Because things change all the time.
Things change. They evolve.
Before telephones, I would never wait in line to get my coffee. Never. Now it's like, it's all right. I'm sitting in line, I play with the
Right.
phone. So things change.
Things change.
And people that are in the news industry, think how much that's changed in the dissemination of news, whether it's videos or stories, completely changed in 25 years. And we remember when the internet first started, I said, you're either going to get on this train or you're not.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right.
And there's some defining moments like that.
Yeah.
So what impact do you think that for the people that you're aware of, that the COVID had on people inside?
Well, I think it was a really difficult, definitely situation for all of us. But for the businesses, small businesses in particular, the community businesses like the ones we deal with, it was really overwhelming. And what that really created, though, was an opportunity to even strengthen the relationships that they had with us. With our staff, you can see that the relationship the business owners get to develop with the people who can help and support them. And it's not that you're giving them answers that they don't have. The answers are usually within them, but they just need some company in this journey, right, that they're going through. It is not an easy journey.
Yes.
So what we are is really that companion for them, because we're not telling them something that they may not already know. We may just be clarifying it for them.
And lots of times we don't want somebody that's close to answer us, all right? We need somebody that's at this third part. And you go, oh, I've heard that before. Well, maybe my wife, maybe my husband, maybe, right? Because you hear somebody else, oh, and then sometimes it sinks in. And that's just the way that works.
That's right.
We have a few minutes left here. I would like you to talk to some young person that's out there.
Sure.
You're awfully learned, if that's the word, all right? And people are looking at you, and I'm sure some people are inspired by what you are doing in this part of your life right now and trying to help people. So I want you to think about some young person between the ages of 15 and 50 who's at a junction right now about wondering about their future. And we're going to talk to which camera? The blue one? You can talk this one right
Wonderful. Here. Well, I would say definitely put pen to paper and start thinking about what you want to do and why you want to do it. There, I think, are great resources to help you formulate those ideas. I think try to focus on things. What are you good at and what do you enjoy doing? And try to find something that kind of meets those two together. And usually, if you can put those two things together, you can build a business plan, you can build a business around that. If you have already a working environment in that specific area or in something else, don't let it go as you get started in your business. This is where we find a lot of community businesses do very well when they're able to keep that hybrid model. They're still working in their job, but they're really starting to get something off the ground, because it takes a while to get all the paperwork, the documents, the accounts, the financials, everything in place for you to be able to take the super plunge. So that would be my advice to them.
You're an amazing woman, right? Your husband and
you.
your children must be very proud of you.
Thank you.
Right? And you're really doing this service above yourself to be able to reach and make a big difference. And, in 20 or 30 years from now, there'll be somebody out there going, what was that lady's name who helped me so much? I know they'll be saying that about you. And again, if people want to reach you, they can go to Community Fund of North Miami-Dade.
That's correct.
Right? And what's your phone number that people can reach you at?
They can reach us at 305-608-8007.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
being here.
you, Michael,
Appreciate
and
your
thank
help.
you for the work that you do for the
Okay.
community.
Thank you. And again, thanks for joining us again at Live the Community News, and good evening. And